with an exciting beginning to Enochian Magick book reviews tonight. We are starting with a fusion of what we've, again, discussed in the past when I looked at occult books, first or second live stream. We reviewed the occult books, the Enochian books of Frater. Yet he does Enochian Magick in practice and theory, and also we reviewed Aaron Leach's fabulous Angelical Language, volumes 1 and 2. But tonight we're going to do a dedicated stream to Enochian Magick. I will then edit it after and put it up on the main page of the YouTube and let the live stream unedited and uncensored be there for viewers to watch at their leisure. Yes, so if you can contribute with liking, subscribing, super chatting is the best because we need to pay for this streaming software, which is a lot. But let's get into it. So first off the bat, this is an interesting one because this is the accurate coloring of the Golden Dawn and tablets. So a lot of what we're going to look at is purest traditional Enochian Magick. We are going to start with a segue from Golden Dawn Enochian Magick into traditional Enochian Magick. And so hopefully that's interesting to some of you. This is Pat Zalewski's third edition, I believe, of his work on Enochian Magick, published by Golden Dawn Publications. And that is in print by a friend in Scotland, Lenny Peterson, Hermetic Science Enterprises. And it's a very lovely cover that Hermetic Science Enterprises designed. This is not unpublished. This is out of print. You can't get this edition anymore. I don't think there's any current print edition, but there is one coming, probably from Lord Magic Press, because Pat Zalewski's teamed up a lot with Nick Farrell to release his books with massive expansions often. There's some pretty interesting stuff in this. It is not in the earlier first and second edition of Pat Zalewski's Golden Dawn and Enochian. So we're going to have some fun with that. There's a lot of good stuff about this edition of the book, and the previous editions have most of it in it as well. But he gives over a complete instruction for working with the Sigil of Diamet in the Golden Dawn edition, scrying the 12 gates, the structure of it, working with the 30 Aethers, Bonorum, all the usual stuff. And if we have time later, we'll look at the origin of the division of the tablets, which comes from not from the Golden Dawn, like people think. It predates the Golden Dawn. I just want you to see the lovely job that Lenny did over at Hermetic Science Enterprises. Forward by Dr. Tony Fuller. That's new, of course. He says exactly 30 years ago, Pat Zalewski published his very first book on the Golden Dawn, The Secrets, Inner Order Rituals of the Golden Dawn. On this signal anniversary, it seems a most appropriate testament to Pat's enormous contribution to the Golden Dawn studies that 12 years later, he has now reissued and extensively revised this important work, Golden Dawn Enochian Magick, which appeared originally in 1990. And I think me and my Wiki coven, we grabbed it, we picked it up probably in 94, 95 when we were discovering Enochian Magick and quickly being overwhelmed by it, of course, as a group of high school teenage Wiccans would be. So he says the former volume was groundbreaking in that it revealed extensive and exclusive details of the last surviving temple of the Golden Dawn, called Maradon Thalasis, Emerald of the Sea, which had survived and thrived in complete isolation from the knowledge of scholars and occultists alike for 66 years. Known formally as Frater, House of the Sun, in August 1978, the temple finally closed its doors of its magnificent permanent temple building. Some 400 to 500 men and women from every walk of life passed through its portals and were initiated into the secrets of magic. Yeah, it is a remarkable story that you can read in other books by Pat Zalewski about the journey of fabulous story of Pat Zalewski and Christine Zalewski's journey through the New Zealand Temple of the Golden Dawn, verse author's introduction to the third edition. So we're going to skip over that because we have a bunch of books to get through, as you can see here. There's a lot of really fun and cool stuff to cover tonight if we can. And I'm happy to go over an hour doing this, especially if people are willing to support my time and energy. Thank you very much as well for supporting these live streams, and everyone's been really great. Appreciative, lots of comments, lots of emails and thank yous and messages. And of course, I'm doing all this to promote the conference I'm hosting in Vancouver, Canada, which I will tell you about later if you're interested. So here you have the Golden Dawn seals under each of the tablets. And in traditional Enochian magic, the tablets are directional and alchemical. The Golden Dawn focused on them or reinterpreted them. So what else we have? Obviously, since it's the Golden Dawn Enochian magic, which is what Enochian magic is, Dean Kelly never called it that, just the Golden Dawn. So here you have the correspondence of the tarot, something that Dean Kelly never got around to, of course, as well as the pyramidal correspondences on each of the squares of the great table, elements of things. And he really knows his stuff in a serious way. Like, he's gone through everything over the decades and come up with some very solid insights, especially some insights. Here's one that I particularly, though I did actually, and he actually mentions not being able to remember where it's from. I can show you that next. I can show you where it's from. But that's what happens, I guess, when you're at it for decades and doing another version of your book. I hope to live long to discover that myself someday. So I'd like to forget more of what I know. It would be a long life. Here we go. I loved his illustration of this, first of all. So the sigil of King Karmara, most people would say there isn't a sigil. But if you read the diaries really accurately here, if you read the manuscripts very closely, you'll see there is some. The reason we don't think of it as a sigil of King Karmara is because it's explicitly said that it isn't from reading the diaries, but it looks like a sigil and acts like a sigil. Maybe it's a sigil. So, but I'd certainly recommend using this rather than trying to come up with a new sigil thing. The three crosses lines there represent his triple. The sigil, he says in the footnote, of King Karmara is not found anywhere in original manuscripts, and so was supplied by the author of the present work from another source. This source, however, has unfortunately been lost through the years due to no possession of his old notes on the subject. So this is a note by Letty Peterson filed this text. So we're going to show you where in the D manuscripts it actually does come from. And I already talked to Letty about this. So, yeah, but it's just over here. It just is a squiggle. It looks more like a squiggle. So there's some cool pictures. It's not colored pictures, but some pictures of the Egyptian gods here. Egyptian gods corresponding to the Bonorum. Now, it can be focused if you've done my course on the Bonorum angels and the Heptarchia, or if you've worked them yourself. You'll know that there is no whispers in the material originally of Egyptian gods corresponding to the Enochian magic is traditionally very related to that guy. It's very Jesus. But of course, in the Golden Dawn, we love to add Egyptians to everything. Egyptian gods, Egyptian devotions, Egyptian everything. Yeah. Like words, lots of words in this. But really well formatted. Really good job. I love it's always nice to angels jumping out at you from the page. Ecliptic, the North Pole. So it's really just a lot of stuff in this. In the calls you get, I noticed some errors. But yeah, in the back we have original manuscripts, facsimile, so we'll go over this. Yeah. We've tried to spend a bit more time on this book. And obviously, of course, I appreciate if you want to encourage me to spend longer on the text. Write your questions. I'll answer them. In fact, here, let's put up the feed on the screen. So if you comment, your comments will appear directly on the screen. Go nuts. So this is really interesting. When we get to Aaron Leach's Essential Enochian Grimoire, there you're going to see the most amazing discovery that Aaron Leach has probably made. Like, everyone who's written an Enochian book, a lot of them have made significant observation, whether those observations were already floating around the community or had been intuited by many practitioners, doesn't really matter. If you're the first person to put in print, check this out, and it's a legit discovery, then that's significant. And Aaron Leach made a huge discovery. Even Jason Newcomb made a major distinction in his. Everyone pretty much takes note over the years and finds something that is salient and important. And so we'll come to that. But here we have the Golden Dawn formation of the tablets with the three secret names in Golden Dawn correspondence. And both systems work. Both systems are very powerful. I think Golden Dawn and Enochian should be done, probably just done by Golden Dawn, because it makes no sense in the context of that system. But anyone can do it, and tons of people do. Enochian, as they say, is huge. It's everything that came out of Golden Dawn. It did not exclude the Golden Dawn's interpretations. So anything based on interpretations is highly tied to the Golden Dawn literature on Enochian, even though it comes from only a tiny slice of the original Ian Kelly material. But the common wisdom is not to mix them, to mix the Enochian, a traditional Enochian with Golden Dawn Enochian, especially it's almost impossible. You're not going to put two different tablets, two variations in the same place. The Golden Dawn tried to do that by adding separate letters, additional letters to each square. So you'll see a Golden Dawn Enochian with some more Egyptian gods there. Lots of Egyptian gods. So here's some interesting stuff. You see the illustrates the use of the spear pentagrams, which we were talking about on the other live stream, but also the incorporation of the Giordano Bruno symbol, the universal hexagram, Bruno. And this is the correct traditional Agla. For some reason, Crowley switched it up. So a lot of people make tablets for Enochian, but it's Crowley's version. It doesn't because the L here. But it should be like that because it follows the arrangement of the tablets, the impressions. Yeah, let's move on. We can't spend forever on this. But there's so much in this book. So here we got some fun stuff. We have original facsimiles of the Rosea Rubea Aurea Crucis, manuscripts, Clavicula Temporum, Bazzoki, and I can grab the original manuscript of that out. Practical Angel Magic by Stephen Skinner. Let me know. So here is facsimile of the original tablets. So people debate, what did they originally look like? Which version is correct? Is it the Rigardi version? Is it this version? Here you have the manuscript. So here you can see. So a lot of the issues come with a version of the using of the original or the reformed table, and it changes how names are spelled just slightly. Just clearly, you're talking about this in class today, the King of the North, right? Ikazod, and then you have here's their. That's where you got the multiple letters, right? H. It's either a H or a I. H or L. Anyway, so they just included the changes so that students could learn and know the variations. They didn't want to just. It's interesting because the Golden Dawn clearly didn't want to just reconfigure Enochian magic. They wanted, and they kept giving indications that they wanted students to go back and study the source material. So as much as Golden Dawn magic, Enochian magic in particular has become speciated from the now referred to as purest traditional Enochian magic. So despite that, it's still something you would want to connect to the original material, especially since we've lost some of the Golden Dawn lessons, the Ether work and the Heptarchia work. Here's some more manuscripts. You can see, Scott's books are just fabulous. There's so much in them. And a few errors in some of the calls is not any Enochian magician knows that they're double checking their calls with the manuscripts no matter what. And so out of trend, probably coming back, but there's an earlier version of that you can get And I'm sure this video encourage it to come back into print. I love the design that they did on that. So that's beautiful work on that. So now we're talking the symbol of King Karmar. Let's jump to that. So in the third edition, he says he doesn't recall, it doesn't appear in the manuscripts. It does. So this is the original Heptarchia manuscripts as transcribed by the great Joseph E. Peterson. John Dee's 5 books of mystery, put out many years ago by Weiser, and a new edition is now on. But first, we'll look at Karmar. So here's the manuscript. You can see the old-fashioned writing, and where Karmar's sigil appears. You can compare it to the very beautifully stylized and corrected, gave it some form. Here it is. No, that's been a while since I worked old edition. Now that the new one is, I don't trust myself to find it. It take too long. Yeah, the language is it takes some used to. You'll figure it out. Just sound it out. Understand what words are. You know, begin is spelled with the GY and E, for example, for the word begin. Karmar. See, there's the original unblock and the diary. Yeah. So Karmar is the spirit, a version or emanation, a form of Oriel. So a lot of people say these spirits are dark spirits. That's hard to rectify if they're, well, the entire Enochian system, you might argue, some might argue, is a representation or a facet of the 4 archangels. Because it all comes from Michael, Raphael. A lot comes from Oriel. Oriel constant speaking to D. So D, praised be God. John D says, praised be God. And Oriel says, dost thou see how mercifully God dealeth with his servants? So Oriel introduces D to Karmar, which is the form of Oriel. And then Karmar introduces his prince. Again, it's a very fun story. This is the kind of stuff I'll edit out of the proper premiere release. We got Hagen. That's the lots of technicals. My name is King Karmar. Here we go. Karmar, triple crown of gold on his head. Symbol of Pagano, operation of the sun. So it's very little. And you can see an H. Yeah. Spirits. Treasure hunting through manuscripts. Love it. This is, if you want to do any traditional Enochian magic, you're going to be doing a lot of flipping pages of the Diaries of John. Days, back, much of this. And these are not even the big diaries, the small stuff. Yes. Okay, maybe we'll find the new edition. This way I get to show you the new edition, which is very exciting because look at how much more beautiful the brand new edition is of that book. It is out the Mysteriorum Libri Cinque, and it doesn't mean the mysterious book. I don't know. Put that out. Anyway, beautiful job by Wiser Books. Beautiful job. Yeah, this is what this text always deserved. Look, for years we had it just in this sort of soft cover, which is nice because I don't mind taking notes where you might be more reticent. Books and beautifully embossed sort of old masterpiece. This is gorgeous, and it's got rivet. It's got gorgeous end papers. This is the first book you want for Enochian Magick. This is the number one text you want to get. That is not for debate. Now, it's certainly the first one my students need, because now if you don't learn in traditional Enochian Magick to go to the source of the material, how are you going to discover new things? Frater Ellis' theory of lifting left, man, he's involved in a major controversy tied into the UAP disclosure and a whistleblower due to an Enochian symbol he made and shared in a YouTube video. And next thing, the whistleblower sharing it on X. And now the internet's all in uproar. Who is this spirit that's been discovered? And what does he have to do with aliens? It's wild. It's wild how Enochian Magick keeps tying into and popping up in mainstream culture. Some things like Supernatural, the TV show I got to briefly consult on, or recently the other day I just screenshotted a Radiohead. I don't know if it's an album cover of Radiohead, but something. But there's Enochian all over it, so I might put that up as a challenge for people to just explore. So here are the sigils of the kings and the princes. And one of the fun things about these kings and princes is the princes and the kings correspond to different planets. So the prince who's serving a certain king will be of a different planet to, here you go, you can see an example of that. So the king of Venus is Balagon, but the prince of is Bornego, and the Bornego is Solar. And then so it goes on like that. Fascinating. It makes for some very interesting interactions. Still no sign of that symbol. It's really scribbled small. There it is. There you go. So the thing that Pat Zalewski said wasn't in the book is right there. It's right there. And it's just slightly different there. There's a couple different ways it was drawn, versions of it. Here you go. That's exactly where it is that Pat Zalewski couldn't remember where it was from. And so he assumed it was in the manuscripts. But it is. It's right there. It's in a note made. It says, note on folio 6A, this character seems to stand for King Farmara, as appears from several places in folio 2AB and many others. It also appears in these other manuscripts and all the Heptarchia manuscripts. You can see where it drawn bigly there. And you can find all those on Joseph H. Peterson's beautiful Esoteric Archives website, of course. That's a prime resource for this, because not all the key Enochian manuscripts have been published like this. Some of the key ones I used for major practices are just there, transcribed, and shown in facsimile by Peterson. So this book is the one to start with. If you want to practice, you'll need another book if you want to learn how to do it, unless you are experienced with grimoire magic or highly intuitive, perhaps, or just want to fap out. But I don't recommend fapping Enochian magic too much. Anyway, Enochian Magick is the overarching theme of the conference I'm doing, so I'm going to tell you a bit about that right now. If you don't mind hanging around, we're going to do lots more books. Check out what we have coming up. We have this coming up. Yeah, this beautiful original Cosmon facsimile that was my mentors at Rhea Talks, and you can see some good stories about these books. And then, of course, we got Aaron Leach and the big deluxe Stephen Skinner Ritual Diaries. If we have time to get around to those, we will do all of them tonight. Otherwise, I can always do a part 2 if necessary. So, my internet here is being slow despite being in the Ethernet. And feel free to make comments or chime in if you want. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight rather than going clubbing or karaoke like I'm sure you all use. Okay. a second. So how's everybody doing? Send me a chat. Yeah, I hope you consider coming to my conference and supporting building this new society. If you guys support it, the great things are possible.
Canada's only occult conference returns this July 11th to 13th. Enochian is an opportunity to come together with leading scholars of esotericism and practitioners of Western occultism in a friendly and open environment in Vancouver, Canada. This year in 2025, with presentations by an amazing group of presenters, including Dr. Justin Sledge, Dr. Terry Burns, Father Aaron Leach, Dr. Sasha Cheto, Frater Eleftheria of Lifting the Lamp, Dr. David Litwa, Chris Trenholm, Daniel Rekshan, David Rankine, Ike Baker, and P.D. Newman. You can also attend live online and experience premier presentations of cutting-edge research and discoveries, and experience beautiful British Columbia. Register to become a member and you also get included 2 upcoming winter workshops and access to Dr. Sasha Cheto's phenomenal year-long undergraduate level course to introduce you to the academic study of Western esotericism. This is not even available at universities at the undergraduate level, but will be included now for everyone who registers to Enochian 2025 before July. Tarry not and sign up today. Go to enochiacon.com or arcaneresearchsociety.com for more information.
And we're back. So let's quickly talk about these. So this is, I always wanted to do this. It wasn't a ray on my radar. It's the Enochian vision, a practical guide to Dr. John Peter, the great authority that approaches history. This edition was first published by a original edition. 2008. Yes, that was when I was done for Magick for a while. I was pursuing party. Absolutely. So I got to finally in 2018 or 2017 do and one of its events that's hosted by our local brother Troyce. Invited, told me about Troy, or by Clay Holdings, figure in Enochian research. He would actually, Jason, of course, have an incredibly fun. Since then, get featured. So, but this book is Lon's method working, and so since I have actually done work with Lon, done incredible results. Second time ever I did Magick for money, or actually maybe the first time. It was the first time I was successful. I've done it twice. Successful for crises, for emergencies. Let's see. So that's why I mentioned it. It's very interesting. He has many unique offerings in his approach. He definitely encourages beginners to pursue beginners to magic theory. This is approach, and I'm one of the with some caveats, and I'm sure with some caveats. It's not that anyone who's first heard the magic should jump in, but I don't believe it's actually the worst place to start off. In my course on traditional magic, I that it's just the fact that you have to complete the grimoire for yourself, because it is grimoire magic in the solid one. It's just a slight departure from it, but not much of a departure, especially in population. So you have to complete the grimoire. Just there's little things that simply missing. So you have to do that yourself to do it from a very purist and traditional perspective. Lon has some great little contributions, like a special prayer for when you're putting on the sacred ring you all wear, you should wear, gold plated, but brass is white. Actually, Amazon days, like everything else, brass. Now, there it is. There's it. Let's find it. LA. That's right. Wait. LA rings. So when I did notice, I even made a one paper that you provided. Materialistic paper one. Now the vomit actually isn't for itself. In traditional magic. When you had at a conference a paper Enochian vomit. There it is. Woolley tape. Lon's got some theories on that. He agrees. He also likes the Bozo edition and it's like they talk about that. Yeah. Looks dawn. And he walks you through step by step how the sigillum is laid out and how it is. And that's something that is really. There's one other author who doesn't think that's study at the beginning. So we're talking about, and he discovered something himself, just like Juan is laid out how it's done. If you study how it's worked, discover things that are quite shocking. Just in Frater up theory of and he'll be better as well. Liber God. I don't know. So I've not ever finally had a chance to, since working with Lon, he had finally got this now. COVID was in full swing and I was able to start. That was so here we go, the alphabet, and this is a very faithful representation of letters as they appear in the manuscripts, which again is the manuscripts of Joseph Peterson's esoteric. And Lon also just books are full of his own thoughts, feelings, and insights. And if you've ever got to listen to him much or make him better, you'll just know how much fun he is and makes better, which is a serious practice and very devout, especially in this. So it's nice to have the jovial spirit. And Lon, of course, being a proud and big brother, has no qualms mixing in the Enochian of David Dawn style with traditional elements. He just blended them seamlessly into his own practice and he did that well. So it's not a bad book to start on. This could go very well with, for example, Joseph Peterson, especially if you don't mind this approach. Now we're doing the academic book of the night. Benjamin Woolley, Queen's Contour, Life and Magic of Dr. John. The most enjoyable biography of John, and one of the only slightly accurate. Many of them are comics. Yeah, who is Benjamin Woolley? No one's really too sure. No one seems to know much about him. Certainly hasn't stuck his head. But reading this book was a total joy. I was playing Elizabeth's heads. And it just takes you on the journey of John, all of his adventures, without spurting what he was doing, too much credulity worrying, and giving benefit of the doubt at times, but also clearly pointing out the points at which there is some questions to what's going on. And of course, it can only cover so much information. So the author does a remarkable job in exploring even these missions to certain low and travelers like Sir Francis Drake. He helped them figure out how to navigate. They didn't actually want to learn how to navigate, so they would take their lessons. They set off to find wherever, and then they quickly get lost because none of them listened to his instructions. And of course, he widely refused to go along any of the missions. And so this is just like one of the key takeaways I got during this book. It's just so much fun. I'm reading the Glenn Perry stuff, the father written by another scholar. It's much more dense, but also full of different takes. So one of my favorite things I took away from reading this biography of Dee is, one, Kelly's faithfulness and the nature of their conflicts over different issues. And it's completely different than the popular story of John Dee as portrayed in Occult. For example, he was more of a Leonardo. Imagine Leonardo da Vinci, and he was flowing artist shirts and gowns, but also fused with the doting father who's doing the astrological charts of his little daughter as she plays with the neighbor kid in the village of Woolley, and speculating on what her future romantic fortunes might be based on the astrology. So a real doting father type character. And that's, I think, very worth mentioning. Because in the movies, especially like Queen Elizabeth or the TV series where they portrayed him, both times he's alone in his study, like some hermit, but that wouldn't have been his life at all. His wife was around, the nursemaids were around, the kids were running around. His son was working with him the entire time. He then famously became the medic or the doctor of the Tsar, of the Emperor of Russia, and composed this beautiful book, Arcanorum, the Philosopher's Stone, which recently came out from all the Leach's press, and you can still get it for 60 bucks. Gorgeous little publication of The Secret of Secrets by Arthur Dee, John Dee's son. So Dee was not some hermit in a cave, right? He was training his kids. His wife was in on the magic, not necessarily rituals, but some of the rituals. And his kids and Kelly's kids even went on to some remarkable things. It's just, text is great. So where did all the wisdom go? Probably some to his son, you think? Some of the wisdom went on to his son. And did he talk to anyone else and maybe pass on his wisdom to any other people? Perhaps. I think it makes sense. Can't talk about that much these days. Right. So we'll do this, especially if you guys can draw me a super chat. Oops. Indefatigable labor on. This is gorgeous. This is the classic child edition of the True and Faithful Relation passed for some years between John and some spirits. And right on the back is the one symbol that the angels say to never show anyone. I've never used graphics. I only have it on my tablets. I don't wear it on t-shirts because if you're practicing the system, you don't show the symbol or look on it in these states. They don't make them like they used to. Just imagine getting this in a bookshop in the 17th century in leather. Those are first editions from 1650. This book was written and put together from John Dee's manuscripts by Merrick Casaubon, a doctor of divinity, to attack and discredit Dee and his life. So that's why Dee's diaries were released in this book. And they're famous. This version, Casaubon didn't think about magic. They didn't believe in any of the spirits or whatsoever. They're trying to show that he was by dark spirits. But the text is get a sense of felicity vibe from the text and spellings. And we're grateful, of course, to Stephen Skinner together this edition. Yeah, with the new introduction by Lon Milo de Kent, Clay Holden as well, archivist of the John Dee Society. Child. But yeah, but Skinner, I believe, was much a really beautiful diaries. It's not true. The diaries. It is. It's just a beautiful job. And get the sigils and symbols all really nice. Just actually, this is how you have the direction determined. And here's the ball. And, you know, Woolley itself, all debates aside here, we're this is making the assumption of graver. So that's what it's. So can't talk about things right. What's my live stream? It's in the web. So beautiful, just absolutely beautiful, and it's fun to read this because you just get transported more into that. There's a passage to read. Edward Kelly said, "It shall not be amiss to bring forth the showstone and to say what the will of God would be therein." John fetched the showstone, and after it had been bent about a quarter of an hour, Edward Kelly spied, this is an apparition, it's spied a little naked boy with a white cloth scarf from under his navel hanging down to his knees. It is a spirit. The hair of his head is short as of a young child, and about that time came the Lord Baal unto us, who sat down. He had a little circle of air in his hand. There is a light that in the stone, as if there were shining the sun in it. Where the child the audit omnia spiritu oris sui qui etiam spiritus defendit et dependat suis dom spicinates. Edward Kelly throwing up his circlet and catching it again 3 times. He standeth still and saith nothing more yet. Now Edward Kelly is turned into water which goeth round about in the midst of it in the cloud. It's blood. Blood. Yeah. Now he returns to his former shape again. So the spirit transforms to show a vision, which is very compromised, right? Yeah, to show something. There's an engagement the spirit shows some form of transformation, spirit or blend itself. So there's a lot of fun in this. Obviously, there's the silliness of polemics, but it's just a great hobby. Teacher. And I've seen 5, 6. Yep. But again, it's not super useful. This is not super useful. You notice how the Latin isn't translated? Right. So you need a different book if you want this text with the Latin translated. And there is only one that does that. It is this one, John Dee's Spiritual Diaries, with complete English translation of all Latin passages by Stephen Smith. So that's the beast that you want. And you can still get it on Amazon. It's great. Still get this. It's like fish. Before we move on, if you'll hear from me, I'd like to tell you about this benefit from joining Arcane Research Society and participating in Enochian this year. The great benefit you get is free access to otherwise very exclusive and expensive full-year academic course by Dr. Chato, introducing the history of Western esotericism by an actual PhD scholar of Western esotericism. She trained with my old doctoral mentor, Nicholas Clark, at the expert program before she continued on to do her PhD in Joseph Pelledan. And she's absolutely wonderful. It's a year-long course that gets started in November. You get free access to it if you join it and register for the event in July this year. Otherwise, you put the course separately through us. That is absolutely doable, no problem. And so here's her explaining a bit more about how fabulous and in-depth this course is.
The Arcane Research Society proudly presents Dr. Sasha Chato's Introduction to Western Esotericism, a fully online course with over 45 hours of recorded lectures. Study at your own pace with a course guide, reading lists, and immersive activity packs. Designed for practitioners and for scholars, it's engaging yet challenging, with expert support from Dr. Chato. Watch 2,000 years of esoteric history unfold, from the mystic currents of Hermetism, Neoplatonism, and Gnosticism to the alchemical fires of the Renaissance and the evolving traditions of modern occulture. Uncover hidden truths, debunk myths, and trace esoteric thought through time. With over 20 years in education, a champion of scholar-practitioner dialogue, Dr. Chato has taught this course since 2010 to hundreds of satisfied students. Get this course free with a ticket to Enochian 2025. After that, it's 1,500 Canadian dollars for Arcane Research Society members or 2,000 Canadian dollars for non-members with lifetime access.
But we're back. So, the Big Fancy Casaubon book has been effaced by Stephen Skinner's massive accomplishment of translating all the Latin, correcting hundreds and hundreds of errors in the Casaubon transcription of John Dee's spiritual diaries. And that is all in this book. So here you go. You can get it on Amazon or check out one of the special ones signed. Lovely. Thank you, Dr. Skinner. Thanks to the Miskatonic books for doing what they do. So there's a wonderful long introduction in this text. Again, the text is massive, so there's a lot in this. Always be careful to find a text this big. And it's images of the table. So here you'll notice the bozo debate, all it clockwise, counterclockwise. It plays it. Here we have bozo, B-O-S-O in English. And here it's on this side. And this is the only table of modern corrected looking target next to Skinner. So that's the thing. I've talked about it in the previous stream. That apparently wasn't actually John Dee's, the black hair. It wasn't to do with him. He used it. He used these, of course, he made these. And that's perhaps his original show stone, but not, doesn't know the description. So it may have well been a stone. I've seen them all myself in the British Library a few times. There's his original sigil in DMS. Born over 500 years almost. Beautiful. And it's great that they put it in the colored pictures there. Isn't that great? Yeah. Yes, you were first to chat, John Hendrickson. Thank you for chatting. Good to see you. Thanks for the support. Shout out. Massive. This is what Skinner did with his type, right? He helped lay a more solid, has done, well, still laying a more solid foundation than we ever could have hoped for in our field of studies and practice. Just what an epic accomplishment that he's done. And the travels that John Dee undertook and the story of all of it. It is really a delight to read through the notes and the diaries themselves. And just imagine you're seeing it in person, you're part of that person, a better sense of what it's. We don't have this from any other historical magician, not this extensive. And indeed, this is the pinnacle of intellectual and scientific accomplishment at his age. So went into magic because he had hit the limit of all other sciences. And so time to turn to God and spirits and angels. Not the black spirits Kelly wanted to work with sometimes. Though who knows what they did. If they were doing that at risk of being executed or prison, that means deals with angels, or getting nobles executed or in prison, then of course they just wouldn't write that stuff down. So there's so much stuff. Anytime there's stuff that you wouldn't write down, I bet they didn't write it down. Maybe sometimes John did, but that was always highly risky. So, Diaries, Historia, Provincia, Informatio, the Histories of Prague, that's when things get very exciting. Crazy stuff happens. Prague. Let's see a good passage here, story. They're very dramatic. Like the idea that these guys were somehow not sincere about everything going on is very, very. All right, let's just do this. John Dee's talking with the angel Ave, the spirit, famous in the Golden Dawn initiations and openings of the Watchtower. Dee says, of the letters in transversary, I would know your will, the R as the other, for a peculiar practice, for dosipax and tedoin, referred diversely as I noted. What is the cause of this diversity? The angel says, it was the fault of Edward Kelly in report. Dee says, what is the very truth? The real truth. Ave says, thou shalt be taught that when thou hast their calls, it belongeth to Nalbach, his correction. The constant amount of errors called out for errors and corrections by the Spirit is phenomenal. Make what you will of it, but yeah. As concerning the etymologies of these things, we would be satisfied. Ave, God is a spirit and is not able to comprehend, to be comprehended. D, some notifying or declaration, no full comprehension I require. Ave, it is no part of man's understanding. They signify all things and they signify nothing. Ave, who can express Jehovah? What it signifies? Deus significat ad it quod ad it. God indicates the thing which he does. So it's nice to have that translation. D says, as the form of our petition or invitation of the good angels, what sort should it be of? Right? How do we invoke these spirits? A short and brief speech. So this is talking about how we do the self-initiation looks like. D, we beseech thee to give us an example. We would have a confidence it would be of more effect. And so they're trying to ask the angel to instruct them and give them correct instructions on how to do the self-initiation into Enochian magic here and how to summon these spirits. And Ave says, I can't help you with that. I may not do so, he says. Edward Kelly pipes in, says, Edward, my sir. Ave says, invocation proceedeth is one of my favorite passages in all the Diaries. It makes sense. Thinking of that. Invocation proceedeth of the goodwill of man, and of the heat and fervency of the spirit, and therefore is prayer of such effect with God. This is how magic works. And the heat and fervency of the spirit, and therefore is prayer of such effect with God. Yes, magic. He says, we beseech you, shall we use one form to all? So he's really trying to lessen his workload and do as little as possible to get the results he wants with these spirits. He says, we beseech you, shall we use one form for all? Ave says, everyone after a diverse form. Now, they didn't take this advice, and you can see that represented in other texts, which we could do in a part 2 of this. But Ave says, no, make them all different after a diverse form. D says, if the mind you dictate or prompt a diverse form, Ave says, I know not, for I dwell not in the soul of man. So D's inquiry, do I just follow what my mind tells me to, and I just follow my intuition? And Ave is this is the most spirit answer I've ever seen in it. Magic writings. The spirits, I can't even answer that question because I'm not. I don't know how you guys work. Fuck yeah. Is that not like, that is the shit. That is what you want to do in the spirit. Really, that's one of those things that really makes you think. If they're just fooling themselves, of course, they would come up with an answer to the spirit and tell you what you want to hear. Not that I'm not even human. I begin to understand how your minds work, let alone how they connect with God. So D says this concerning the diversity of certain words in these tables and those of the portions of the earth delivered by now. What say you? Ave, tables are true. Is it I-droppel or all-droppel? So there you go. They're just checking out to make sure that they have everything right. Ave, both names be true, and of one signification I have delivered to the table. So use them. These spirits are getting tired of all the nitpicking. He wasn't a perfectionist because he did do this stuff. He did practice, but you can tell he really wanted to get it right. Yeah. Absolutely. The spirit just gave him the key to all magic. And these, can I just use one prayer for all of the spirits? He would have loved the 90s New Age. He would have loved it. It's like, just put out your intention. Just like intent. But the Supreme Court said. But anyway, absolutely fantastic. Read these diaries. Come to Enochian support a D and Kelly conference annually here in Vancouver and online in Prague in 2027. We're going to make it with your support. So please consider being a part of this wonderful and daunting project, daring adventure. Aaron Leach's The Essential Enochian Grimoire, an introduction to the angel magic from Dr. John and from Dr. John J. Golden Aaron Leach. So this is the classic Enochian Grimoire, and it is a great book to start with, to go along with the diaries. All the practical books like this, the analysis books, are good to go along with the diaries, but you want to get the diaries. That's essential. Let's just run it down. Grab that. We're going to do multi videos of this, but Scott Stenwick's work I'm a big fan of, and his work is great. A bit more Thelemic, but still fine. And he does have stuff comes to traditional Enochian. I think he knows a lot. He's one of the greats of our time. So you're going to get a wonderful history by Aaron Leach's history of the use of Enochian tradition, and a real overview of all of this. And we're going to have some fun debates about some of this stuff at Enochian July next month. 30 days away. And Aaron Leach did the most remarkable thing, noting this one thing in particular, which is the reversal. D mentions that something should be reversed. He says, no, this diagram, as it appears in John's diaries, journals, includes an error. When D first received the great table from the angels, he switched the positions of the western and northern watchtowers. The angel later corrected the error, but D seems to have drawn the banner diagram before the correction. His version places MP Arcel Daio in the north and Oipetea Enoke in the west. For some reason, he never bothered to redraw the diagram. And after the angels corrected his error, because the error has caused confusion for many students, I have redrawn the diagram myself to show the northern and western names of God in the proper places. So here in the north should be Oipetea Enoke, and in the west, MP Arcel Daio, which is the same as the Golden Dawn has it. But of course, in the Golden Dawn, it is in the south, the fire, and Mordial is replaced with again. But these two stay the same. So that is the great observation, like phenomenal observation that could have only been done with the level of scrutiny and precision that Leach's research produced. It's really amazing. And he has beautiful diagrams. I love, of course, the way he does his diagrams and things more than stem links. And I follow this way. Though I do for some things, some stylistic differences, but that's appropriate. You always want to get inspired or directed by the spirits to do something. You can try that out. If it works, keep rocking. And we have bows over on the right. I know some people probably don't like describing the debate, but that's okay. So he goes through everything you need and then takes you into how to work with the Heptarchic spirits, the 7 spirits of the days of creation. And then he takes you into how to do Gabriel God and Gemethal working. And then I love especially the analysis of the alchemy of the tablets and how the tablets function in the Great Table and divide. And then at the end, you get some simple stuff. Book of Supplication, of course, for the Great Table Manipulation. Yeah, it's a big project. A lot of people don't even know that Enochian comes with a dedicated self-initiation into the system. But that's one of the things people like here trying to get out there. Yeah, they only got some Golden Dawn. Magic, so some more breast Golden Dawn folks who want to, expand our teaching practice and use the calls. Generate some phonetics. So this again, he has the soft G theory, which you might. At the end of the day, it matters more than practicing fervency of spirit than with pedantry of mind. That's the one thing the Spirit's made very clear to me. A heartful prayer from your own inspirited intuition is far more powerful than emotionless precision, shall we say. Yeah, there's a lot of good in this book, and a lot of you probably have it. Yeah, there was he posted recently a while back about one error that makes this needs to be a second edition. This deserves a second edition from Llewellyn. Come on, Llewellyn, second hardcover edition, especially since he designed it to be like an operational manual. Some of the things I'm sure you can tweak a little bit, especially the error you mentioned, which is that some of the calls were just repeated instead of using the correct calls, so they're just not repeated. I can't remember what it was you said about this since again with Diary. Yeah, I transcribe things myself, and then you catch things in those errors, but it happens. So let's petition Llewellyn for a second hardcover edition of this book, because there was never a hardcover in the first place, but it's still and one of the best books you can possibly get. Absolutely. Yeah, and if you're in the States, you can get it signed from him directly, which it actually supports it more. So consider that for sure. Going direct to the source and get it signed by Aaron Leach, or come to Vancouver, or attend online to Enochian.com. Enjoy helping us help us make this world more fun to live in. Thanks for being here tonight, everybody. And we'll be attending the version of this up or the next day. Subscribe and make sure you hit the notification bell to be notified of these live streams, because I don't always have a chance to pre-plan them. I fit them into my schedule where and when I can. And they are fun. And this hosting software costs a small fortune. It's $150. So you can throw some super chats. It really helps to cover those costs. I appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks for being here. If you have any last questions, I'll last look at the comment section. Yeah. Thanks for being here, John Hendrickson and Chatty Kathy. It's late at night. I know most people are at raves, beach parties, and in Europe, you're suntanning on the beach in the morning, especially a Saturday, Sunday morning. But this was here. Thanks for hanging out. Say goodbye to Jesus. He's watching over all this heretical Christian magic that we love so much. So, sign up. Sorry.
Canada's only occult conference returns this July 11th to 13th. Enochian is an opportunity to come together with leading scholars of esotericism and practitioners of Western occultism in a friendly and open environment in Vancouver, Canada. This year in 2025, with presentations by an amazing group of presenters, including Dr. Justin Sledge, Dr. Terry Burns, Father Aaron Leach, Dr. Sasha Cheto, Frater Eleftheria of Lifting the Lamp, Dr. David Litwa, Chris Trenholm, Daniel Rekshan, David Rankine, Ike Baker, and P.D. Newman. You can also attend live online and experience premier presentations of cutting-edge research and discoveries, and experience beautiful British Columbia. Register to become a member, and you also get included 2 upcoming winter workshops and access to Dr. Sasha Cheto's phenomenal year-long undergraduate level course to introduce you to the academic study of Western esotericism. This is not even available at universities at the undergraduate level, but will be included now for everyone who registers to EnochiaCon 2025 before July. Tarry not and sign up today. Go to EnochiaCon.com or ArcaneResearchSociety.com for more information.
Thank you for the super chat, John Hendrickson. As a special bonus reward, I'd like to be introduced to my evocation of the Archangel Michael. Here he comes. Are you ready? He has been summoned. Here's my Archangel Michael. Behold. Take care, everybody. I hit that. It's just not. All right, Vince. I guess it'll shut down whatever it darn well wants. Business. I'm just a mere human. I have no say over these technologies. They do what they want. What? All right.